back-to-back weeks, a fan favorite of the NASCAR community goes to victory lane, and it's the sport's most popular driver. Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Texas Motor Speedway, the mile-and-a-half track that is sketchy with different degrees of banking in both turns 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4. It's flatter and wider in 1 and 2. It's higher and narrower in 3 and 4. But sometimes if you have a good race car, good strategy, and you're able to defend whoever's coming from behind you, you'll be able to come up top and be able to capture the cowboy hat and wear it pride and high in the Lone Star State. Yesterday, we had ourselves a very entertaining race where we had a couple of key contenders get taken out due to unfortunate circumstances, but one driver came out on top and one that's well-liked by the fan base. Let's talk about all that happened yesterday at Texas. Number 1, prime time for number 9. Chase Elliott gets his second win of the 2026 season by winning yesterday's Wurth 400 at Texas Motor Speedway, beating out Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher for the victory. A very fun win for Chase Elliott and the 9 team. If you remember, 2 years ago, he won at this racetrack, which broke a winless streak that dated all the way back to the latter part of 2022 because he didn't win in 23 because of inconsistency, the injury he sustained, as well as the suspension for one race for his actions at the Coke 600 against Denny Hamlin. But 2 years ago, he broke the winless streak, and 2 years later, he wins at Texas yet again. And it's the track where he also got his first win in the O'Reilly Series back in 2014. Chase qualified 14th on Saturday's session, so that's where he had to start for Sunday. In the early going of the race, he was able to pick his way up, work his way inside the top 10, and was able to hang there pretty much for the majority of the race. Then we get into stage number 2. He gained some more track position because of guys being on alternate strategies, but he had some really good restarts yesterday, and he was able to use those to his advantage to pick guys off, work his way up inside the top 5, and that's where he remained pretty much the remainder of the race. The 9 car had really good long run speed. It also had good fire off speed on those restarts, being able to make a lot of those moves. He got himself inside the top 5 and ran second for the majority of the second stage until Corey Heim, who was on an alternate strategy at the time, had to come down pit road so he can get his tires and fuel. Elliott took over the lead. Then we had a caution in the latter part of stage 2, which set up a one-lap dash to the finish. Elliott came and take tires, had to restart in third spot, but made quick work of the Roush Fenway Keselowski racing cars of Brad Keselowski and Ryan Preece that stayed out, got by them off of turn number 2 easily, and was able to get his first stage win of the season. And then we get into the final stage. He was on cruise control and held the field behind him for pretty much the majority of that final stage. Nobody could really run him down aside from getting in lap traffic, which could slow your momentum down, especially when there are guys trying not to go a lap down. For the most part, he was able to work his way through those guys, had good solid stops, and the fun fact, the fastest 3 pit stops that Chase Elliott's number 9 team has had so far this season all occurred in yesterday's race. The pit crew was on their A game, giving him phenomenal pit stops and allowing him to have that track position. So after the final round of pit stops cycled through under green, Elliott was able to get back into the lead and pretty much had to work his way through the lap traffic in the closing laps of the race to not let Denny Hamlin try to catch up from behind and take the win from him. However, with 11 to go, Corey Heim wrecked in turn 3 and 4 after hitting perhaps one of the bumps over there and got him up in the wall, taking him out of the race and thus setting up a dash to the finish with a 4-lap finish coming up. And on the restart, Elliott was on the inside, Hamlin on the outside. The 11 did get a little bit of a launch as they took the restart, but Elliott, thanks to a push from behind from his teammate Alex Bowman, was able to carry the momentum into turn 1, stay side by side with Denny, and because the bottom groove was the preferred lane to be in, especially at Texas over in that section, Elliott was able to clear Hamlin off of turn 2, and he drove away, not looking back, and was able to pick up his second win of the season. He is the second driver this year to score multiple wins. The other one, well, you all know who it is. Tyler Reddick with his 5 wins. Now Elliott has 2 wins. The first time ever that Elliott in the first 11 races of a Cup season has scored 2 wins in that time span. Impressive start. Once again, this 9 team, you can make a legit argument right now that this is the best car of the Chevrolets and at Hendrick Motorsports. Everybody thinks Kyle Larson, the defending Cup champion, he's the best guy. he hasn't had a win yet, and he's kind of struggling lately. William Byron, he's a guy that we always expect to see run front on a consistent basis and winning some races. He hasn't done that yet, and he's been kind of meh so far. And of course, we've talked a lot about the struggles of the 48 car, and of course, Alex Bowman missing some races, but the 9 team has been the consistent factor of Hendrick Motorsports so far, and he's been the one that's been able to get the most out of this Chevrolet Camaro body. It's a newer body this year, a little flatter nose. Some teams still trying to adjust, but the Hendrick team has definitely adapted to it well so far, and Chase Elliott has been the main front runner over there. But yesterday, very fast race car, great on pit road, great car on the long runs. Alan Gustafson and the 9 team had that car set up for Chase, and he was able to use it to his advantage yesterday. And despite the late race yellow and having to deal with that restart against Denny Hamlin, who he has a history with in the past, he was able to take victory at Texas, the second time this year that Elliott has beaten Denny Hamlin head-to-head, and they battle for the win. And I can make a legit argument right now, obviously, that Chase Elliott is one of the top 5 drivers that is definitely going to be in the championship conversation when we get to the chase. And consistency is the name of the game, and Chase Elliott is the most consistent driver that we have, aside from Tyler Reddick to start the season. But it would not surprise me, with the battles that we've seen the 9 and the 11 have had for victories this year, 3 of them where Hamlin has done it over Elliott once at Las Vegas, and Elliott the other 2 at Martinsville and yesterday Texas. Could those 2 be the ones duking it out at Homestead at the end of the season for the championship? It's possible, but we'll have to wait and see how the races in the chase shape out for both of those guys. But the 9 team, they did everything right yesterday, and Chase Elliott, by the way, he led the most laps, which it took him a while to get up to the front and lead those laps, which didn't happen until stage number 2. But the 9 car leading the most laps yesterday was the stat that I did not expect to see coming, considering how good other guys were at the beginning of the race. But the 9 team did everything right yesterday. So big congrats to Chase Elliott and the 9 team. Second win at Texas, a track that he's not really been fond of in the past since the reconfiguration. But 2 wins in the last 3 years, probably starting to love it a little bit more. Number 2, runner-up for Hamlin. Denny Hamlin had one of the fastest Toyotas, maybe the fastest Toyota in yesterday's race. In the early going, he was up front duking it out for the lead with Carson Hocevar, our pole sitter and our most recent first-time Cup Series winner at Talladega, and his teammates Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell and even Ty Gibbs. The Joe Gibbs Toyotas yesterday were very, very fast, but it certainly seemed like Hamlin had a good handle on his race car for the majority of the race. Well, alternate strategies, which you tend to see a lot here at Texas with guys wanting to get that track position versus guys wanting tires. I think track position here matters more than tires as we've seen in the past. When Denny Hamlin got caught back in some of the traffic, it was really tough for him to fight his way back up to the front of the field and have a chance to win the race. Now, when he did get back up inside the top 5 by the final stage, he couldn't really seem to run down Chase Elliott or at the time his driver, Tyler Reddick, who was ahead of him in the running order. But once pit stops were completed, Hamlin was then able to get by Reddick because Reddick complained, I might have a vibration with my left rear wheel. Maybe didn't get that lug stud up properly tightened. So Hamlin was able to work his way up into second place. And for the majority of the time, even though he got by Reddick, he was still not making a lot of time up on the 9 car until with 11 to go, he got to about as close as 0.8 of a second and told the Corey Heim wreck. Hamlin elected to stay out, and he decided to restart on the front row. He learned from his mistakes from Kansas, I believe, even though he started on the front row, he wanted to restart on the top lane because he felt like if he got the right push from behind, he was going to have a chance at Chase Elliott for the victory. And he had a good pusher behind him in Chris Buescher because we all know that those Fords have some extra ponies under the hood, especially on those restarts. So when Hamlin was able to get a slight advantage on the restart as they took the green flag, it looked like maybe he could have had the momentum to carry into turn number 1 and 2 and maybe clear the 9 car. But because the 9 car was able to get the good push from behind from Bowman and was able to get inside of Hamlin and get the advantage off of turn 2, there really wasn't a whole lot Denny Hamlin could have done. The only chance he may have had is if Elliott somehow missed the bottom groove in the closing laps of that race, slipped up the track, got too high, which we've seen time and time again in turns 1 and 2 with these cars. And in general, maybe Hamlin could have had another chance. But it didn't really work out his way, but it was still a really good day for the Denny Hamlin and the number 11 team. He did tip his cap to Chase Elliott and say he got the better of me on that restart and he did everything right. And he appreciate that. But Hamlin also documented that, he had some good restarts. But one thing I also took away from the race yesterday from the Toyotas was that Christopher Bell in the pre-race said that I think the Toyotas have good long run speed. We don't necessarily have the speed on the short runs. That's where we're probably at a disadvantage. And maybe that could have played a factor in the fact that Hamlin wasn't able to close on the 9 car at all in those final 4 laps of the race for the win. And even in the other restarts of the race, when he was middle of the pack, could really do a whole lot until it all fanned out and he was able to pick them off one by one, but he was already too far back from the leaders at the time when he started to make up some positions. That probably played a factor in Hamlin not being able to get the job done yesterday, but once again, consistency is the name of the game, and after the rough and ragged race he had at Talladega last week with those pit road penalties, getting back in the lead lap but way too late in the race, this was a good bounce back for Hamlin, still showing his strength as a championship contender and a guy you're going to see continue to battle for wins week in and week out. So, despite coming up short, Hamlin gave it everything he had yesterday. Number 3, back-to-back thirds for Bowman. Alex Bowman has got to be enjoying running up at the front and finishing up at the front these last couple of weeks. Back-to-back weeks of third-place results. Last week, he got his first top 5/top 10 of the season at Talladega, finishing in 3rd. Yesterday, he backs it up with another 3rd-place result. And he was a big factor in allowing Chase Elliott to win yesterday, restarting on the inside lane. As everybody was choosing which lane they wanted to restart to for the final restart, Alex Bowman behind the 9 car made perfect sense because Busch restarting on the top lane, I could understand wanting to maybe, if it had gone his way, shoot to the outside and maybe look for 3 wide on the leaders, but it wasn't able to work out. Bowman was able to give Elliott the shove he needed into the lead, into turn number 1, and was able to clear the 11 car and take victory. Elliott did a great job in that last restart, but you got to tip your cap to his teammate, Alex Bowman, as well, for being there to push him when he needed it. But yesterday was a good result for Alex Bowman. But in general, they ran really well yesterday. He qualified in 9th, and I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty good, but let's see how he performs in the race because we've seen at times the 48 car this year and in previous years that they qualify well, but they don't tend to race well. But Alex Bowman, qualifying 9th, stayed in the top 10 pretty much the entire day. At times, he did get shuffled out of the top 10 because of strategies and guys taking 2 tires versus 4, guys wanting the track position by not pitting at all. But Alex Bowman was able to pick his way back up through the field. They had a good car in that number 48 car. And when he got back in the top 10, he didn't leave the rest of the race. He had good long run pace, had some good battles on track with guys like Reddick, Daniel Suarez, Riley Herbst, Chris Buescher. At 48 car was very competitive yesterday, and that's something that we've been wanting to see from Alex, especially with the year that he's had so far. We know that the first 3 races didn't go well for him result-wise, and then he missed 4 races because of dealing with symptoms of vertigo. And then his first race back at Bristol didn't go well with him with the wreck. Had a good car at Kansas, but didn't get the result that he wanted. He got the result he needed last week at Talladega, and then he backs up again with another 3rd-place effort. Now, he did gain 2 spots in the points up to 34th, but he's still 127 points back behind the cutoff to try to make the chase. It's still going to be an uphill battle for Alex Bowman to make the chase. I don't know if he's going to make the chase, but once again, we've seen stranger things in the world of motorsports. Anything can happen. He could maybe have a low finish of 11th these final 15 races and maybe be able to race his way into the chase. But he's got to continue to keep this momentum up, but more importantly, he's gaining confidence because a lot of people have questioned whether or not Alex Bowman has still got it, if he's still the guy to remain in the 48 car, if he's still worthy of being at Hendrick Motorsports. Back-to-back weeks of 3rd-place results and running well is confidence boosting for this 48 team and for Alex, because with what we've seen from Carson Hocevar so far this year and him getting his first career win in the Cup Series last week, many people, including myself, we're entitled to our opinions, but I believe that maybe if things don't go well for Bowman next year, if he's with the 48 team, he could be out of the car and maybe could be Hocevar taking over the ride. But that's just my opinion. But back-to-back weeks, top 5s, got to feel good if you're Alex Bowman. So great job by that 48 team. Number 4, controversy late with Busch and JHN. In the final 4 laps of the race, while we were watching the guys duke it out front for the lead and the win of the race, in the middle of the pack around the top 10 to 15, there were guys battling it out for position, and with 2 to go, a wild moment happened on the backstretch and into turn 3 between Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek racing for position that ended pretty ugly for both of them. I want to first start off talking about Kyle Busch for a moment before I get into the incident. Kyle Busch got his first top 10 of the season last week at Talladega. I know, pretty crazy. 10 races in, and you finally get your first top 10. Wild. But after the race, RCR announced that Jim Pullman would be relieved of his duties as crew chief for Kyle Busch, but would stay within the program as a competition director, I believe. So, who put atop the pit box for Kyle Busch? Andy Street. And Andy Street worked with Kyle Busch the final 5 races of the season last year, and they had some good performances with their race cars and finished top 10 in the finale in Phoenix last year. So they put Andy Street atop the pit box this week for Kyle Busch. A qualified 6th, which was a really impressive effort, but they stayed inside the top 10 a lot of the race yesterday. They were in the top 5 in the first 50 laps. The 8 car had really good speed yesterday. It seemed like already the chemistry was working with Kyle Busch and Andy Street. Now, Kyle did have some tussles on the track with a couple of guys battling for position like Carson Hocevar, and we know how Kyle Busch feels about Carson Hocevar, but Kyle was able to work his way back inside the top 10 after alternate strategies pinned him back to as low as 15th, but he was able to get up inside the top 10, and it looked like he was going to finish in the 9th position and get his second consecutive top 10 of the season and gain more confidence for him and the team. But with the late race yellow, he elected, along with a few others, to come down pit road, take 2 tires, and have a chance to go for the top 10 with those tires. But I don't think he got quite as good as restart as he hoped he would, and he was stuck at about 12th to 13th spot. So on the backstretch with 2 to go, he's racing in position with John Hunter Nemechek, who is going to be in position for a nice top 15 result. They make contact, and from what John Hunter Nemechek says, he says that he was holding his lane and Kyle was drifted up the track right into him, and that's what knocked Kyle into the outside wall. Kyle Busch said from his perspective, I held my lane. He's a half inch off the wall. He's not supposed to do that. I feel like he's coming down into me, and he got into me. So Kyle got turned into the wall, and then going into turn 3, as you see Kyle reducing his speed a little bit as John Hunter's trying to pass him again on the outside, Kyle pushes up the track, and he doored John Hunter Nemechek and sent the 42 around in turn 4 and into the wall. Now, they didn't throw the caution because John Hunter was able to get the car down to the bottom of the racetrack and get off the racing groove to let the rest of the guys finish the race. But John Hunter ended up finishing 21st with a wrecked race car. Kyle Busch, as good as he ran yesterday, as competitive as he was, he fell back to 20th after that contact. And a lot of people are really wondering, what was Kyle Busch thinking right there with his actions in turn number 3? I feel like many fans could argue that was a racing incident that happened on the back straightaway. You know, who's right, who's wrong in that situation between who held their lane, who didn't. That's for them and for the NASCAR officials to decide. But what happened in turn 3 was a little over the edge by Kyle Busch, and I almost got immediate flashback to what he did to Ron Hornaday in the truck race in 2011, 14 and a half years ago, when Hornaday was still running for the championship. They both got into each other in turn 2, smacked the wall, brought out the caution, but the trucks didn't look too bad to continue. But Kyle Busch lost his mind and decided to run up in the back of Hornaday and turn him into the outside wall, wrecking him and Kyle Busch. And NASCAR wasn't happy with those actions. They parked Kyle for the rest of the race, and they parked him for the O'Reilly race and the Cup race that weekend for his actions detrimental to the sport. So, now, did Kyle Busch hook the 42 yesterday? No. He did not do what his teammate Austin Dillon did 2 years ago in the battle for the win at Richmond, where he left rear hooked Denny Hamlin and sent the 11 car around into the wall coming off of turn 4. Right rear hook, that's what he did. Kyle Busch did not hook the 42. He doored him, and you can classify that as rubbing and racing, but it was a little over the edge, I feel like. Now, what can NASCAR decide about these actions? I'm not sure, but my opinion is I could possibly see a fine and a couple of points taken away from Kyle Busch. That is not really enough, in my opinion, to get Kyle Busch suspended for a race. It's not like what, Chase Elliott did to Denny Hamlin in the Coke 600 3 years ago, where he hooked him deliberately, taking both of them out after he got squeezed in the wall by the 11 car. Kyle Busch just doored the 42 car, but I just don't know why you would do that after you were having such a good day. And I know that you're a couple of spots behind the top 10, but still, the praise that everybody was giving Kyle Busch yesterday for how well he was running and how good he and Andy Street were doing, to do that at the end of the race was a little uncalled for. So we'll see what NASCAR decides as far as actions and whether any punishment will come down on Kyle Busch. But that incident with John Nemechek left a black eye on what was going to be a positive day. And number 5, attrition on a sketchy track. Yesterday's racing at Texas, we all know how tricky the track can be with the reconfiguration that we had 9 years ago and how the flatter, wider racing groove in turns 1 and 2 is compared to 3 and 4 with higher banking and a little bit of less width up there. But we've also seen a lot of guys get shuffled out, run up high, and do a lot of things on the racetrack. But we've also seen guys get caught up in incidents that affects their race. Some of that happened to some of the Toyota drivers yesterday. Christopher Bell, who has not really had a great track record here at Texas with the next gen car, had a really good car at the beginning of yesterday's race, racing up at the front, battling it out with his teammates Hamlin and Chase Briscoe for the lead. It looked like Bell was going to be in the conversation for a stage win and possibly be one of the guys you'd have to race for the win. But that all came to a screeching, crazy end at the end of stage 1 when Todd Gilliland, a couple of cars in front of him, was trying to stay in the lead lap, got up high in 3 and 4, went around, and as he's coming down the track, Christopher Bell speeding up, trying to get by, gets nicked at the last second and turns the 20 car around and into the outside wall, taking him out of the race, damaging both the right side tires. And Bell, unfortunately, finished the race 38th dead last, and it's dropped him 4 spots in the points down to 13th. Not the start that the 20 car would have had to the start of this year. I'm very surprised about that. And what happened yesterday, that was just bad luck at its finest. Now we go to Ty Gibbs, who he was going to probably be in the mix for the race yesterday because we've seen the speed from those Joe Gibbs Toyotas, and Gibbs had worked his way up inside the top 5. Well, then we had a lot of changings with strategy and everything. Gibbs got pinned in the middle of the pack, and back there he was racing hard with Ryan Preece for position, but Preece did not like the way that Ty Gibbs was racing him, so going into turn number 3, and this was the opening laps of stage number 2, it looked like Ryan Preece got in the back of Ty Gibbs and sent Gibbs up high and into the outside wall, thus knocking him out of the race. Really rough couple weeks for Ty Gibbs after he got his first Cup win at Bristol a few weeks ago, wrecking at Talladega last week, not once but twice, and then yesterday's race, really tough luck for Ty Gibbs right now, despite being a Cup Series winner. But I don't think Ryan Preece really wanted to do that, but he said, if he's going to keep racing me like that, he's got another thing coming to him. So, a little rough moment there for those two guys. Then we go to Joey Logano, who hasn't won since this race last year. And yesterday, after qualifying middle of the pack, he was starting to work his way up through the field, narrowly avoiding William Byron in an incident off a turn at number 4 when Byron lost control of the car. Logano was able to get by him by a split second. He missed the wreck. But then as everybody was coming down pit road, Joey Logano's team elected to go with 2 tires games from track position. But as he's leaving, and this is, by the way, before the Ty Gibbs caution happened, Logano's leaving, Ty Gibbs is leaving his pit box and waiting to get into his pit box because he can't get in with Ty Gibbs there, is Cole Custer. Custer basically stopped. Joey Logano has nowhere to go, and the left front fender hits the right rear quarter panel of Custer's car, damaging both cars and knocking Logano out of the race. And it has been a tough start to Joey Logano's season this year. They've had not a lot of things go their way. They certainly had the speed in their car yesterday, and who knows what would have happened if he got further up the field. Maybe he could have been in the mix, but we'll never know after that pit road mishap. And then Kyle Larson, who's won here before, and he's still yet to win this year. Hard to believe our defending champion does not have a win under his belt yet so far. He had an average day yesterday in the beginning of the race, running around the top 15. Then he had an incident on pit row where as he's coming in, he gets hit in the left side door by Chase Briscoe, which that hurt Briscoe's right front fender after he ran up front and took him out of contention with ill handling issues. Larson got hit in the left side door, and he was never really the same after that. Pretty much stayed around the top 20 until in the closing laps of stage 2, he got loose in 1 and 2. The car stepped out from under him. He went around and hit the outside wall, thus having to send him back to the garage where they were able to repair the car and get back out there, finishing, unfortunately, back in the 34th spot. But not a good race yesterday for Kyle Larson, who's still looking for his first win of the season. A lot of contenders that I expected to see competing for the win in the closing laps of yesterday's race, all of them taken out due to attrition on the track and on pit road. But again, as for the rest of the racing, we saw a lot of comers and goers with strategy changes where some guys elected to stay out to gain some track position, even though they knew they would probably get pinned mid-pack. Like Eric Jones, he was able to get his first career stage win of his Cup career with the stage formats and everything, winning yesterday's first stage by staying out. Then after that, he pitted, got restarted in the middle of the pack and would never really be able to recover from that, although I think he got a top 20 at the end of the race, so that's pretty good. Top 15, actually, so good job by him. But a lot of guys yesterday, there were comers and goers due to the amount of strategies that was going on between who wanted that try position by staying out, who wanted to take 2 tires versus who wanted to take 4. A lot of comers and goers yesterday. It was a good race, and quite frankly, I thought there was going to be a lot more cautions like we've seen in the past. Only 7 cautions yesterday, so that's pretty good. But we've also seen when guys are battling for the lead or there's battles going on the track, even if you're on the lead lap or you're a lap down, when you got a big run on the guy in front of you, if that guy comes down to cut you off, especially going in the corners, it takes away about 30% of your front downforce, and you may slide up the racetrack. It happened at least twice yesterday to Chase Briscoe in the first stage when he was trying to take the lead. It happened to him twice, and he kept slipping up the track, lost a spot, and then had to recover from that. Aero blocking is certainly a big factor between who's going to win this race versus who's going to be forced to follow the leader here at Texas Motor Speedway in particular. But it were some relatively good racing moments yesterday, filled with a lot of attrition for some of our main contenders, but decent racing nonetheless yesterday. Now we're off to some road course racing, our second road course race of the season. We already did Circuit of the Americas this year, and next weekend, we are off to Watkins Glen. Yes, Watkins Glen's in the month of May this time, ladies and gentlemen. The last couple of years, we've seen it be a summer race in August, or as in 2024, it was a playoff race at the time where we saw that thrilling battle for the win between Chris Buescher and Shane Van Gisbergen. Well, this weekend, we're going to be racing on Mother's Day at Watkins Glen. And of course, we all seen how beautiful Watkins Glen is in New York, especially this time of the year. There could be a slight chance of rain, but we have wet weather tires, so we can run in those conditions. But next week, I got a feeling we're going to see a lot of our road course aces up at the front of the field duking it out for the win. We've seen Tyler Reddick become a formidable road course ringer the last couple of years. He's going to be in the mix. Kyle Larson, a former winner here, he'll be up there. Chase Elliott, the track where he got his first win of his Cup Series career back in 2018. He's going to be in the mix for sure. But I know 2 guys that I think are in desperate need of a good run or chance to win to help the team and themselves. Is Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zillage of Trackhouse Racing. Those guys are one of the best at this type of racing, and I have no doubt that those 2 will be in the mix next Sunday for the win. So who's going to ace the strategy next weekend? Because I know that'll be a part of the race, but also who's going to make the less amount of mistakes to be able to win at the super speedway of road courses. We got to tune in to find out. So I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of the week. I hope everybody that is a Star Wars fan had a wonderful Star Wars weekend. And because today's May the 4th, I say this to you, may the Force be with you. And for everybody that is celebrating Mother's Day this upcoming weekend, guys, gals, don't forget to get your mom something or take her out to dinner, take her out to lunch, or call them and tell them you love them. And for the mothers that we don't have, obviously, anymore, we love and remember you. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Subscribe, like, and congrats once again to Chase Elliott and the 9 team on their second win of the season, second win at Texas. Have a great week, everybody. Let's go racing!